I will call this Adams Board of Health meeting to order here on June 30th, 2021 at 5:00 p.m. I will, as you noted, the meeting is being recorded. Our iVirtue's representative may also be recording it, following suit. I have listed my phone number, my cell phone number, if anybody's having trouble joining remotely. So, and I would notice that there is a post-pandemic waiver to conduct this meeting remotely. As such, one of our members, Peter Hoyt, is joining us remotely. The other two meeting members are Joyce Brewer here at the table with me, as well as myself, David Rhodes, and our Code Enforcement Officer, Mark Blaisdell, also in the room, our administrative assistant. Danny Rose is also with us. Town Attorney Ed St. John III is joining us remotely. Thank you for joining us. So I
Welcome.
would like at this point a motion to move the first order of old business dangerousness of trees at 5 Summer Street to the top of the agenda so that we may dispense with it.
Motion to amend the agenda.
Any discussion? Hearing none. Pete?
Yes.
Joyce?
Yes.
Dave? Yes. Passed unanimously. To review briefly, there was a complaint with trees on Mr. Sherman's property, 5 Temple Street, that they may be dangerous. Officer Blaisdell responded and actually issued an order to have some of the trees removed. Mr. Sherman appealed and obtained an assessment from a tree expert, an arborist, who said that the trees were not dangerous. At which point, Mr. Officer Blaisdell removed the order to remove. At that point, his neighbors, Mr. and Mrs. Kroll, were distressed, and we suggested that they obtain their own assessment, which they did, and brought it back to a recent meeting. When we reviewed, we did actually see some merit in their Kroll's report, but we felt it was important for us to obtain legal advice and assess our own liability before moving forward. Now, in general, in a hearing process such as this, the code enforcement officer issues an order and it's on appeal. We may uphold the order, we may modify it, or we may rescind the order. And this is a case of an order that was already rescinded. So at this point, we do not have an order to remove the trees on the table. As such, I would like to ask for a motion to dismiss this case as not being under the purview of the Board of Health. It is a private matter between two neighbors. May I have such a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Now is the time to discuss. We may ask Mr. Sherman for any further thoughts, but what do you two think? And Officer Blaisdell may also enter. Do you think that this is a reasonable end to this issue before us? Any thoughts, questions?
No.
Are you ready to vote? Pete,
Yes.
Joyce,
Yes.
Dave, yes, unanimously. The issue of dangerousness of trees at 5 Summer Street are no longer with us. So if you and your neighbor have any issues, it is between you two that we will not intervene at this point.
Thank you.
So I don't need to call you tonight.
No, I just wanted to say one thing, just to clarify what you just said. I didn't get the arborist, they did, you just stated it in reverse.
Oh, I thought it was Babson or?
Well, remember, he wasn't the arborist, that was Dave's defense,
Okay, gotcha, okay.
okay?
It was your tree expert.
Thank you.
Okay, so fair enough, but that, so thank you. So we can move on to the,
Thank you, everyone.
we can move on to the agenda. Next agenda item is a public hearing, appeal of housing code correction order for 89 North Summer Street. So I will open this at a hearing. We will hear who is here, who wants to speak to this. And I will ask Officer Blaisdell to give us a brief summary, and then I will ask other people who have interest in this to say what they have to say, depending on, I don't want to have to cut people off, but we will have a informal time limit. So may I have a motion to open a public hearing on housing code correction order for 89 North Summer Street?
So moved.
Any discussion? Hearing none, Pete,
Yes.
Joyce,
Yes.
Dave, yes, so unanimous, hearing is now open. Just that we have Officer Blaisdell in the room with us who issued the correction order, and Mr. Mullen. It's not, he's the other, and you are, remind me your name again.
Sean.
Sean, okay. And so, Officer Blaisdell, would you please give a brief, we did receive pictures and the,
And Pete, did you get a copy of the correction order and the photos?
Yes, I saw it in my email a little while ago. I read through it. Thank you.
All right, so the occupant had made a complaint of housing code violations. I went out there on June 1st and confirmed housing code violations as well as took photographs. And I issued on June 3rd the correction order to Ms. Snow. Ms. Snow is appealing the correction order, and I'll let her speak to that.
So, in May, I served my tenant with a new lease to either sign or to go on his way. By the end of the month, he decided he was not going to stay. So I took away, he was the property manager over there. So I took away his property manager because he wasn't doing anything. So I said, I'm gonna put you at full rent. This is your new lease. I have until May 28th to sign me this lease, so I know what's going on June 1st. On May 29th, I then text him, and I have lots of text messages, I have lots of stuff. I have his new lease that I was going to give him, if you guys need to see that. On the 29th, I called and I asked what was going to happen. He said, I'm not signing it. That's when he called the town and made all kinds of reports. Mr. Bushy did know that come with nice weather coming, I was doing those windows. You know, I complied with everything that Mr. Blaisdell has asked me to do on the other side, I don't mind. But this was in complete retaliation for not wanting to sign the lease and then me asking him to go ahead. So I think this is very unfair and unjust to do this in retaliation. I understand he has older windows, I completely agree, I don't disagree with any of this. I do disagree with the hairline fracture in the out of the foundation. I disagree. I don't know how we can complain about that when the inside has done, it was an $8,000 job on the inside of my property, down in the basement. It was all sealed, like there's nothing coming through, just the outside has air on it. So that's the only one I don't agree with. And the last I knew, the railing was perfectly fine. Just June 1st, when he decided to make all these, to call and start all this up, that's when. So I don't disagree that the windows do need to be fixed. I disagree with giving an order saying, here, this needs to be done right now, when it was fine before I served this new lease that I gave him.
So you are asking that to be relieved of making these repairs.
I don't feel like I should, well, first of all, I really don't wanna cater to him while he's there with what he's putting me through now. We have court, we have tenant court, like he's already said, he's gonna drag me through the coals until I absolutely force him to leave. I really don't wanna make him stay comfortable with this. I know it needs to be done eventually. I'm a single mom. I also can't just run out and buy a whole new apartment of windows. I cannot. But he also knows that when the weather changed, which it has, but May is when I gave him the new lease. And he knew new windows were getting put in. He knew this. Again, this was all just in retaliation. None of this had to even be brought up. It was,
So he's still living there.
he's still living there,
And I
refusing to
believe
leave.
there's a court date on July 19. Is it the 19th?
You may be confusing.
I don't have any other court dates.
You
Well,
don't have.
I don't.
Yeah, but yes, I think
He was served and he has until July 30th
July 30th to leave.
to leave
And
for repossession, for possession, that's what it is. It's not for non-payment, it's possession.
So it's a 30-day notice to quit
Yes,
and not related to his case against you?
and it's not related to his case against me. That's why he filed this, was because he was not told he had to leave. That's why he did this.
So my rebuttal would be that the code still applies. See, he's not
Right.
under an order to vacate by the court. I'm more than willing to agree to an extension. If Ms. Snow would like that, as opposed to having the board vote to decide whether to uphold, modify, or rescind.
Okay.
So that's something you'd like to do?
Yeah, I can do an extension.
Right, so we can
Because,
talk
you know,
later.
fair-
That was key to this.
so Matt, I just ask that when this tenant leaves, you would to rent the property.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So when this tenant leaves, the whole apartment's getting redone, because it's
Oh, okay, so these.
very lived in right now, so.
These violations would be addressed as a matter of your,
Oh, we incorporated new tenants, absolutely.
okay, that's reassuring, it's not necessary, but it's reassuring. So do we need to make a vote, or is it just up to you to
Well, my-
extend?
I'm sorry, my position would be allow Ms. Snow to request an extension of me outside the hearing, and that the board just simply continue this 2 months.
A couple months, I would
2 months.
definitely need a couple of months. I
For
don't
review
have.
of the 2 months.
Right, so we may be meeting early August, so I will put it on the August agenda just to check in, but yes, so, well, thank you, I think this is
Just for review, not a complaint.
Okay,
just for, yes,
Okay.
exactly,
okay,
so,
And we can talk tomorrow.
okay, perfect.
so may I have a motion to close this public hearing?
So,
Do I have a second?
Second,
Any further discussion? Right, none. Pete,
yes.
Joyce,
Yes.
Dave, yes, so this hearing is closed. Thank you, Ms. Snow, and best wishes moving forward.
Thank you very much.
So, and now I believe we have another hearing on tap here, which is, is this the 5 Temple Street?
This is.
This is the 5 Temple Street, okay, and that's Mr. Moore. Okay, good. So I need a motion to open public hearing on the appeal correction order for 5 Temple Street.
So moved.
The second,
Second.
discussion. Hearing none. Pete,
Yes.
Joyce,
Yes.
and Dave, yes, so unanimous. And so we have here, again, we have Officer Blaisdell, who had issued the correction order. We have Mr. Mullen, and your interest in this correction order is,
Landlord's agent,
he's the landlord, but you're the
landlord's agent.
landlord's
Yes.
agent.
Right. Yes.
Right. Okay, so the issue at hand is,
So just to recap, the apartment was originally occupied by another party who then subletted to the subject party, Chad Slick. Originally, it was never disclosed to me that the tenant was the one responsible for making sure that there was heat and hot water, so they were responsible for that expenditure. The tenant did not provide the fuel oil for the heating and hot water system, thus causing ruptures in the heating system, which then flooded the apartment and then caused damage to the apartment. The subject tenant took occupancy during that time. And once it was learned and confirmed that it was the tenant's responsibility to provide the heating and hot water, I withdrew that correction order, issued another correction order to the tenants to cure the violations. There was a non-compliance with that, so then on June 2nd, I condemned the apartment. And that's why Chad Slick has, let me back up, Mr. Sumner has vacated the apartment and left Chad Slick as the lone occupant. So he's the one who filed the appeal. He did not appear at any of the prior hearings, and even today, he is not in appearance. The landlord has, as I told the board last month, filed eviction of both of those individuals, and that's where the next case comes up on July 19th. So Mr. Mullen can add to it if he wishes or make any corrections to my statements.
It's pretty good, that's all correct.
so Mr. Sumner is not living there, as Chad Slick is the person, and so Chad Slick is the one who
Correct.
did all the damage.
Well, no, when the damage had originally been done, Barry Sumner was there. This was all around January, and I had confirmation from Mr. Sumner that he had moved out probably around March in that time. So he had been there when the damage had happened, but once we had served he notice to quit, he had just left. I don't think he wanted to deal with that.
And the sublet, was that?
The sublet was not a sublet. To him, he's a sublet. To us, he's a trespasser. But it's up to the court to decide and figure out on July 19th stuff.
Right, that's what I thought, is that usually you have a non-sublet in your lease.
Yeah, oh yeah, correct. Yeah, there is a non-sublet section in the lease that they violated.
And so our current, I'm just trying to, what you're asking us to do. So the correction order is still on Barry Sumner.
No, the correction order is to Chad Slick.
It is to Chad Slick.
Right, so he's the one who has filed the appeal, who has never appeared, even remotely. He was offered assistance in appearing remotely.
Could I just add that our intention is to, I mean, we don't wanna, not seeking any monetary damages from this guy, we just wanna get him out and get their apartment repaired properly as soon as possible. That's our goal.
Right.
So it's not Mr. Mullen or Mrs. Mullen, the landlord, asking anything of us. It's Mr. Slick who's asking the board without his appearance to essentially order the withdrawal of the condemnation order. So along with the condemnation order, he was ordered to vacate. I did reach out to other social agencies to assist him with the remote access as well as rehousing him. They're willing to do that, but he's also not in communication with them. It is believed that he's still living there. Do you know if he's not?
As of last week, I'm pretty sure he was.
Okay,
So he's still there.
Yes.
right. So I would be asking the board to affirm or hold the June 2nd order of condemnation in order to vacate.
And good. So if we affirm, then that you cannot be in that house.
Correct.
And his only recourse would be to appeal to county court or.
Correct.
Right. I think I've heard enough. Do either of you have questions of Officer Blaisdell or Mr. Mullen?
I thought the last time we had talked about this, that the tenant was out and living elsewhere. Did he do that and move back in, or was that a misunderstanding?
That may have been a misunderstanding. The tenant, Barry Sumner, has moved. Barry Sumner took on another occupant, so he essentially subletted the apartment, not with any authorization by the lease, notwithstanding. And he abandoned his co-tenant or subletter, Chad Slick, at the apartment, who's dug in his heels and figured he's a lawful tenant. The tenant's not an issue. It's whether or not the order of condemnation in order to vacate is valid.
Right, I do understand that Chad is the one we're talking about, but I thought that, Mark, you were assisting him, getting him in contact with people to get him another place to stay. And it was my understanding that he had taken you up on that offer or contacted them and was out. That did not occur, or that was my misunderstanding there, I guess.
Initially, he was in communication with them, but their relocation would be for him to be in Pittsfield and then give him vouchers for transportation back and forth since he's originally from North County. So he has since abandoned that communication
Okay.
with those organizations.
Okay, all right, thank you.
And he was supposed to show up in court on Monday, but didn't. Is that what I?
Correct.
And you were there, or?
Correct.
Frankly, I don't see what the question is here. I believe I have heard enough to make a decision. We may make it within the hearing, but I would, we can discuss it. I will ask for a motion to uphold Officer Blaisdell's order to condemn.
So moved.
Okay.
Is there anything more we need? Basically, this would put in motion the tenant would vacate the property. And then Mr. Mullen could get on with what he needs to get on with. Any further discussion? Pete,
Yes.
Joyce,
Yes.
Dave, yes, so motion passes. Yeah, let me close the hearing. Thank you. May I have a motion to close this hearing?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
discussion, hearing none. Pete, what say you?
Yes.
Joyce?
Yes.
Dave, yes, unanimous, this motion, this public hearing is now closed. I'd like to express our thanks to you for coming and explaining the situation, and we wish you the best in moving forward with this process. So please feel free to be in contact with us as necessary.
Thank you.
Sure.
And I'll send you the letter. You can add it to your court records.
Okay, appreciate it. Thank you very much. This way.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, it's good. So back to the agenda. We have next online approval minutes, and the only minutes we have before us that have been prepared are the May 26th joint meeting with the Board of Selectmen, in which Joyce Brewer was recommended by us and appointed by the Board of Selectmen, but there was a glitch in access to the meeting, so we had to repeat it. Nevertheless, we do have to approve those minutes. Have you both had a chance to review them? Do I have a motion to approve the minutes as provided?
Motion to approve.
Second,
Second.
any further discussion? Pete,
Yes.
Joyce,
Yes.
and Dave, yes, so motion passes unanimously, and we will review the June 9th minutes at our next meeting, and which is actually next week, I believe. And if you don't have them done, it's okay, you get 3 meetings,
Okay,
so.
it's a short week next week, so that's
Yeah,
gonna be
yes,
tough.
It is a short week, yes, so you get one more bye. And I'll skip over code enforcement officer, and go to old business. We already dealt with damage to trees, COVID-19 update. I think until something big happens, I think we can probably remove this item, so otherwise I will just keep saying the same thing or whatever. Things look pretty good, particularly in Berkshire County. If you haven't been vaccinated, get vaccinated. Things are opening up. So any other comments? All right, done. New business. Tobacco awareness program, Jim Willis, and his monitoring businesses has, discovered, one major lapse, which the FDA is also discovering as they look through, do their own monitoring, is that, the new tobacco law requires that, tobacco vendors actually have manufacturers' letters specifying that the particular, it's not brands, but varieties of tobacco products that they are selling do not contain flavors, and that includes spearmint, menthol, whatever. And so these, Jim Wells has taken the approach of actually asking for the vendors to supply tobacco awareness program with those letters so that they are on file in his office instead of having to go look for them every time they go to a store. Jim, in discussion with him, so there is a letter which I sent to you. I would like authorization to revise that according to Adams and send it out to our vendors. It's basically a warning. Get those letters, make sure you have them up to date. So I will ask for a motion for that. I know Mark is sitting on the edge of the seat. Jim also recommended today that those letters actually might be possible to have our permit eyes have a line item there for the letters to be submitted to Mark through permit eyes. But I'll let Mark speak to how he thinks the best.
So I just wanted to explain, if anybody doesn't understand how challenging it is for an inspector, when you do an inspection, asking the person in charge may not be the owner or the manager. And this happens even with food code inspections, is that you're asking for documentation of the person in charge who doesn't know where those materials are kept. So that is what Jim is asking for. I think is very reasonable for us and his staff also, when they go out to do inspections within whichever municipality, that they would know the establishment. They would know at which establishment has those letters from those certain manufacturers. So it'll be assisting all of the inspectors immensely by having that.
So I know we can't snap our fingers and have permit eyes do this for you immediately. Would it be helpful for, as Jim said, that they send your office the copies of the letters?
Right, so unless you're going to mandate specifics within permit eyes, all that the user is going to do is upload those documents. So the most challenging thing for them is to actually get it scanned. Okay, and then once it's scanned, they can attach them to their existing permits. So that's easy enough to do. It's not a big deal. But yes, they can send them in the meantime to me or Michelle, and you can upload them to the application.
So I will add that to the letter that we are asking. And should there be a deadline
Oh, there absolutely should be a deadline.
that we will ask for this to be done, say by the August 15th or?
Whatever your pleasure is.
Okay, so it is summertime. Okay, so let's say by the end of the month, by July 31st. And I'll sort of say that if you have any issues, please contact us, whatever, and we'll try to assist. But so basically I rewrote Jim's letter, Adam specific, and ask for manufacturer's letters specifying lack of flavors be sent to the health office here. So, and then, care of Officer Blaisdell. Okay.
David, should we give them, 30 days instead of the end of the month? It's kind of a standard, I guess.
Okay, let's make it, what's the, what's the first Friday in August?
The 6th, August 6th.
Yeah, so, I mean, I sort of said August 15th. Let's make it, let's make it a Friday the 13th. How does that sound? So, okay, Friday the 13th it is. So now I have a motion that I revise Jim Willis's letter to tobacco vendors regarding manufacturers' letters on flavorings for our Adams vendors, and request that those vendors send copies of the letters to our health office by August 13th.
So moved.
Myself,
Absolutely not.
well, it's tobacco, so that's why I want to make sure.
Yes, I was worried about that. So yeah, Pete has moved. You do not have to, and I think we have Attorney St. John here, that Joyce Brewer is our anti-tobacco maven in Berkshire County. But I believe that this is an issue in which she can, I'm anti-smoking too. I don't work for it except for here on the Board of Health, and we've issued a number. So is there a conflict of interest here?
I work for it, so.
Right. But the other half of this is protecting the vendors. And so I think it's a very important notion, because that's Jim Willis's other half. I mean, he wants to keep underage people from smoking, but he also wants to keep the vendors on the straight and narrow. And so I appreciate, and that's falls in your line of education. So no, you do not have to recuse yourself.
Okay, so I will say.
David, she might be better off recusing herself just in case there's a question later on. You know, you do still have a quorum that can vote on this issue.
Okay,
Okay, so
well,
I will recuse
it's
myself.
better to be safe than sorry. So I second the motion. The second motion. Is there any further discussion? Pete, let's see.
Yes.
Dave, yes. Joyce abstains or refuses. And so yes, motion passes. I will write the letter. So, okay. Then moving forward, the next order, so I will get that to you, Michelle, next week. So that, and I think the last public health nursing contract, now we can't do anything about this today, but I do need some authorization to move forward. I did circulate the letter that Berkshire BNA, who has been providing our public health nursing services, which had heretofore been accessing Maven to follow communicable diseases, and following up on those as well as other public health nursing duties. Obviously, that job exploded during COVID, but nevertheless, our nurse Nancy Slattery had did a tremendous job. In any case, I don't know what the whole story is, but Berkshire BNA is no longer going to be offering public health nursing services to municipalities in the county. However, on the good side, the state put forth this state action for public health excellence, and they had granted a number of grants for public health excellence shared services. and our county got two of them. One, the Berkshire Public Health Alliance. And as I said, full disclosure, I am vice president of the alliance, so I have a vested interest here. And Tri-Town Health got a shared services grant covering a number of southern Berkshire County municipalities. So in the absence of Berkshire BNA, both Public Health Alliance and Tri-Town are offering themselves to provide public health services. Now, this is an aside, I conferred with my one colleague, Sheffield Board of Health Chair, Martin Mitzoff, and he noted that, I told him we paid like $2,400 for our contract with Berkshire BNA. He said that's a woeful underpayment for real public health nursing service. So I suspect that's one of the reasons why the BNA had to back out of that business. I contacted our Kitros, who's our liaison, our public health liaison with and at BRBC, and she intimated that for us to contract with them, it would be about twice that amount. So we're talking 4,500, 5,000. And as I said, Martin himself and also Jim Willis said that that's closer to the truer cost. I did contact Jim and ask him, and he said that we are not eligible for it. It is because this shared services grant covers South County municipalities, so our only choice actually is to go with the alliance. The good thing is last year we had one TB patient, and it is our responsibility to monitor TB patient conducts the full treatment regimen, which I think lasts 6 months. And that means a public health nurse has to show up. It used to be like 5 or 6 times a week. And over the course of that 6 months, it cost us $6,000 for that monitoring. So like almost 3 years worth. The Health Alliance contract actually includes TB, so it's kind of like insurance if you have a TB. So they cover that, and I'm trying to find out what other services they do, whether they also have clinics or immunization clinics or wellness programs or whatever, what other benefits, but we need to see the contract. So if I can have a motion to authorize me to request a contract from the Berkshire Health Alliance, I will bring it back to our next meeting on July 7th. I think we get Nancy through July 16th. So we have, that would give us time. So may I have a motion to authorize me to request a contract from Berkshire Health Alliance?
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
So discussion. The question is,
David, have you contacted Jay and Gary, I guess, as the department head? Because this might have some implications with the budget. They might want to discuss with Crystal, I guess.
we actually are quite underspent. Jared keeps saying we're overspent, and so it looked like we weren't But yes, but in any case, it's state mandate. We need to have the public health nurse. And so, but I will take that on as information, as necessary information for our discussion next week. So yes, that's, and then the second question I would have is, are there alternatives? And I don't know. Jim Willis actually suggested something like Northern Berkshire Regional Emergency Preparedness Committee. And they obviously stepped in with COVID and did a remarkable job on the public health front. And so we have an infrastructure, we have good people. So it is possible for us to like regionalize ourselves. But I'm thinking that for this first year, I think we need just to take, I think we should take what's available to us and then think ahead a little bit more thoughtfully as we can take time.
So David, I guess I missed your answer. Did you talk to Jay or Jerry?
I talked to Jerry just ahead of time, and I don't know how to characterize the discussion. I was a whole lot more confused after he answered my questions than I was before. And I will just leave it at that. But yes, I think I do need to sit down with Crystal. She, not to coin a phrase, but she is crystal clear. Whenever I have asked her questions, it's like I walk out and I know exactly what the story is. So yes.
So they are aware.
What's that?
They are aware of this change.
I don't think so.
Yeah, Jay may not be because he's on vacation.
I keep getting bipped on that. Yes, you're right. So let me formally send the Berkshire VNA letter to Jay and Jerry. I did send it to Pam because of the whole contract thing. So yes, I think that's a good idea. And then sit down with Crystal and try to, because I mean, we have $4,500 in promotion, education, and training, and we didn't use any of it over COVID, as far as I'm aware. I mean, it was, and so we do have some slop in this. I don't want to call it slop, but we do have some flexibility in our budget. We have underspent our budget the last couple of years, at least from what I can see. So, well, regardless, we need to see the Alliance's contract. So how do you vote, Pete?
Yes.
Joyce? Dave, yes? Okay, so I will contact Laura, and I will contact Jay, Jerry, and Crystal, and see what I can put together for next week. So, is there anything, oh, yes, one more thing on the agenda here, and that is, and I did not look through this thoroughly, but the American Lung Cancer Screening Initiative is offering a webinar. Did you have a chance, Joyce, to look at that in more detail?
What I did was I reviewed the site. I have heard through other people of this screening. But that's the best of it. I reviewed their site. They look pretty neat for a site. I know that's not a health term, but they look like a pretty solid, good site. And coming from the tobacco world, I think that if they're gonna present something, we should at least look. We should look, because North County has very high rates of smoking.
Yes,
And so I think that to at least look at the webinar and see what they have to offer, I think is reasonable.
so do people, I mean, is this gonna be maybe a free cancer screening, or is it, I mean, I
It's my impression that this webinar would give us more information in regards to, is it free, do they look for payers or whatever? But I think that, as I said, given that there's such high rates here,
yeah,
I think that at least it merits taking a look, asking questions.
Mhm.
Like, how are these screenings covered? Do they just roll up? I mean, I don't know. I have heard of their screenings, but not in depth enough to make a decision whether they should come to Adams or not. So I think that having them at least have them do a webinar with us so we know what it is, I think is a good choice.
okay, so, do you want, are they scheduled webinars, or do we contact them for,
I think she said to just reach out.
okay?
Yeah,
And so we might have to, I mean, even if two of us, you and me, or you and Pete, or whatever, I think it'd be important for at least two of us. And obviously you if you want. But yeah, I think two of us from the board. Yeah, so reach out and see what they would schedule, how long it is, and I think would be a good opportunity, because yes, Jim's been floating out those numbers, and yes,
So do you want to ask town council about two board members getting together? Or is there an exclusion or training?
that's a good question. I think if it's a webinar, they tend to be one-way things. And I promise I won't be texting Joyce asking her what she thinks. I think we would come back to the meeting, but yes, you're right, that is, and obviously we do go to meetings together. We are actually going to have a fall health association meeting probably in a couple months, and you're invited too. And so yeah, there are always opportunities for us to deliberate outside this room, but we just thank you for reminding us not to. Does that make sense?
So the answer is you can attend something like a webinar, for example, together, or a seminar, or a social gathering without violating the open meeting law, so long as you don't conduct any discussions about anything related to Board of Health matters at it. You're simply going there to receive education on this particular topic or any other topic, and you should be fine.
Thank you. Thank you.
Right, and so I'll also add that I did talk to Deb about Berkshire Health System, Berkshire Health Group. And they don't offer anything like this, so this would be an excellent opportunity. Yeah.
Right, yes.
Yep.
Okay,
And there's a new person in charge of that. And so would we want to also extend an invitation to him to attend this webinar as well?
yes. Yeah,
so I think that, if I can make a suggestion, I think the next step is to just reach out and see what exactly they're talking
Yeah.
about. Are they talking about a webinar? Are they talking about, because there just wasn't enough information, other than the fact that I know if there's any way to get lung screening locally, I think it's a good idea. But as
Yes.
far as what it's all about, can't tell you. Went just poked around a few minutes on their website to see what was on there, but yeah, I don't know how this works, but if you want me to reach out to her, I'd be glad to reach out to her and get back to you.
Please do, and that, so, and we're meeting next week, so I think, we have time to plan stuff.
So before I go on vacation, I will
Okay.
reach out to her.
Thank you, okay. So that's all I have on the agenda. Other than we do have our meeting scheduled for next Wednesday at 4:00, and that includes the public hearing on dogs and on athletic fields. And no one's written to me yet, but they now have another week to do so. So I don't want to schedule a meeting beyond the 7th. I think we should see where we are there unless someone has other thoughts. So let's just leave it at the 7th. And do I have, and for the good of the order, anybody have anything else to say? So, all right, well, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none at, let's see, it's at 5:56 PM. The Adams Board of Health public meeting is now adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you.